Go ahead and get started. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:33. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We're going to start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you stand if you can, and please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first order of business is to elect a moderator to preside at the meeting. Are there any nominations from the floor? We have a motion for Bill Stockmeyer for moderator with a second. Are there any other nominations from the floor? I declare the nominations closed. Could I have at least 3 people please come up and vote for the moderator? You're going to see Maggie over here in the corner. We are also going to take a public vote. You're going to do that by raising your yellow goldenrod papers in the air. For the public vote, all those in favor of Bill Stockmeyer for moderator? All those against? The 4s have it. Bill Stockmeyer is elected moderator. I would ask him to come forward and be sworn in. Please raise your right hand. Done. Okay. Do you, Bill Stockmeyer, swear you will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Maine, so long as you shall continue to be a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities the duties incumbent on you as moderator of the MS-80 15 budget meeting on May 22nd, 2025, according to the constitutions and the laws of the state of Maine?
I do. Thank you. Good evening, Let's see here. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? No? Get it a little higher. Is that a little better? Great. Thanks for coming out tonight, everyone. What I'd like to do first is to swear in the ballot clerks. So if the ballot clerks could perhaps join me at where do you like to do this? A table down here where your oaths are. We'll take your oaths. Right down here. If you'd raise your right hand, we'll get you all down here. You can wait until you all get here. Well, first, thanks for doing this for us tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, if you'd raise your right hand. Do you swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Maine, so long as you shall continue to be a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities the duties incumbent on you as the ballot clerk of the Maine School Administrative District number 15 budget meeting on May 22nd, 2025, according to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Maine? If so, say I do. Thank you. All right. If you're a voter, you should have a goldenrod voting card, as well as a green yes/no ballot for voting on the additional local funds article. If you're a voter and you don't have those things, you should go back to the table and check in. If you're a non-voter, could I ask you to just please identify yourself by raising your hand? If you're a non-voter, okay, we have some school administrative officials here and over there. And in our audience, any non-voters? Okay, just a couple of kids. We recognize you. So the way we're going to vote is by raising those goldenrod cards, okay? That's how we're going to identify the voters. So I'm not going to require the children to segregate themselves. We know who the administrators are here and over there. So that's how we're going to proceed, and we'll vote using those cards, so there shouldn't be any question about who's a voter and who's not a voter. I'm going to generally follow the rules of the Maine Moderator's Manual and applicable provisions of Maine law with a couple of modifications. First, if there are any school administrative officials that are called upon to answer questions or explain the budget within the areas of their responsibilities, I'm going to allow them to do that, whether they be residents or not. Second, there will be no amendments to amendments. Now, I always explain this. This is a budget, and we're approving dollars. If we allow amendments to amendments, we'll get hopelessly confused as to what number we're voting on at any point in time. This does not prevent you from making your amendment. We'll deal with the First Amendment. It will either pass or not if there's an amendment, and then you're free to make another amendment. So this rule does not prevent you from making an amendment. It's simply designed to avoid mass confusion. Everyone understand that? And third, by law, we'll have a written ballot on Article 14. Is there any objection to these rules of procedure? Seeing none, that's how we'll proceed. Yes, ma'am.
Did you say if, once you introduce the article, then it's discussed, and at any time someone can make an amendment while that discussion is going on, correct?
Yes, there can be an amendment while the discussion is going on. Yes. The question was whether there can be an amendment while discussion is going on the article while it's on the floor, and the answer is yes. And I would ask, we'll get to some of the rules about speaking and using the mics after Superintendent Turner presents the budget, which is the next item on our agenda, so I'd ask her to make her presentation at this point. Thank you.
How's that? Can you hear me okay? No, that's not working. Okay, how's that? Good? Excellent. Okay, thank you. I probably should have introduced myself before. I apologize. My name is Chanda. I'm the superintendent of schools here in SAD 15, and we'll be spending a little time with you going over our budget. These slides are available on our website if you would like to refer to them, msad15.org. If you go to the budget page, you can find them there. We're going to go over a few things related to this budget. We're going to go over the foundations upon which we built it, the process of how we got here, some of those drivers for why the money is where it is, what the revenue looks like, and we're going to talk about the estimated tax impacts. But we're going to start with our budget foundations. At its core, our budget should drive our strategic plan. We have 4 strategic plan goals. The first is around academic achievement and ensuring that our children receive high quality instruction. The second is around having responsible and safe schools for our staff and our student well-being. Our third is related to our indoor and outdoor facilities. And the fourth is related to having highly functional operation systems to support teaching and learning. As part of the strategic plan, the board adopted a number of core beliefs. Those beliefs are that we will continuously work to improve our image and standing as a district, that we will increase our attendance rates, and that we will have increased opportunities for our staff and our students to be creative while emphasizing creative problem solving. This all feeds back to our vision, which is a vision of what we think our community and our students should be in this. I'm not going to read the whole, won't make you read the whole thing, but I'm going to give you a minute to look at it. And finally, this all feeds back to the mission of MSAD 15 schools. And our budget, if nothing else, needs to prepare students for their next step, instilling aspirations through rigorous and relevant educational experiences. That, at the end of the day, is the foundation upon which we have built this budget. So the process we have been through and the factors that rolled into that. We started this process on November 6th, believe it or not. If you do look at our website budget page, you will see every step of this entire process, every date, every document, videos of every meeting, every agenda, going all the way back to November. So we started our work actively in November, looking at the data of our schools. We then moved into annual written department reports. Again, those reports are available for you. Every school and every department does an extensive written report that is delivered to the board. We then started talking about budget factors and then having oral department reports through January and February. Throughout all of this process, we were having internal meetings with every department and every school to go over 3 years of spending line by line by line to make sure that we were planning appropriately for the future. We provided draft provided draft budget presentations in March. The Finance Committee voted to move forward the budget that you see here on April 9th. The board voted to move forward the budget you see tonight on April 16th. And we are here at the budget validation meeting. And after tonight, the budget will go forward to the polls for the referendum on June 10th. So now I'm going to give you an overview of some of these things we've done along the way, starting all the way back in November with some information about our academic achievement. 60% of our district cohorts, meaning our groups by grade, perform statistically significantly better in 23-24 than they did in 22-23, so that shows our kids are growing. 57% of our district cohorts performed what's called at state expectations on the annual state assessment that's given in grades 3 through 8 and in high school. 100% of our district cohorts performed what's called at state expectations in reading. And 100% of our district cohorts significantly outperformed state averages in science. 70.7% of MSAD's 15 students performed at or above expectations in reading. 66% of students performed at or above national averages in math. 254 high school students participated in advanced coursework, whether that was advanced placement, international baccalaureate, dual enrollment, or early college. Keep in mind that generally speaking, only juniors and seniors are able to access this high level of work, so this is a significant portion of our student population. And 26 of our graduating seniors last year were awarded diploma endorsements, meaning that they had very high achievement and did extra work in their chosen area. From there, we talked about district areas of focus. So those are some things we thought we were doing well academically. These are some things we thought we should focus on. The first is math. Both our normative, which means how we're compared to everyone else in the country, and our criterion, which is how we're doing against a specific bar set by the state of Maine, indicate that we have some room to grow in mathematics. We also believe we have some room to grow in the middle level. That's the area where, as you look across our data, we're seeing a data dip, and so we'd really like to do some deep focus at the middle level. And then finally, looking at growth. Our cohorts are growing, but we'd like to see them growing more. And so, because we kind of saw a pretty big dip as part of the pandemic, kind of during and just following, we have recovered quite well. But we would like to see some additional growth from our cohorts to make sure that they're excelling even more. From there, we went into our department reports, and they were extensive and they were long, and this is a very long list of things. But across all of those hours and hours and hours of presentation and hundreds of pages of document, I've tried to sum it down into a few major bullet points. We talked about our strengths. K4 mathematics has been really focusing on some new strategies and helping kids grow, and that seems to be working. Our annual growth at elementary has been fantastic. We've been doing some work on what's called response to intervention behavior, which is helping kids develop those skills they need in life, such as being organized and regulating our emotions and that kind of stuff. Restorative practices have been going into place at Dunn and middle school. We were able to expand our gifted and talented programming because we've been fully staffed. Our transportation staffing has been improving over time. We have been able to make some pretty big steps in facilities and transportation, coming up with strategic databases as well as replacement schedules. We have been responsive to athletic and co-curricular options for secondary students, adding activities and not filling them based on student interest. And then we've seen an increase in diploma endorsements and high participation in that advanced coursework. We asked all of these folks to also talk about what their areas of need were. Across almost every presentation, I think the biggest theme is that first bullet, which is around facilities and maintenance. We also have some needs around middle school special services. We, as part of the budget process last year, you may recall, we reduced one teaching position. At the time, we knew we would need that teaching position back. We had a 1-year lull where the IEP needs at that school did not require all the teachers that we had, and so we reduced a position. The IEP needs at that school are changing. We will need that position back now. As I mentioned before, mathematics instruction and middle level instruction. We're looking at doing some literacy review at the elementary level, seeing how we can get better there. Our regular education summer school programs we've offered for a number of years, but those have been grant funded, and those grant funds are gone. So if we wanted to continue doing summer programs, that would need to be supported by the local budget. We talked about adding some consistency in ed tech hours. We have a shortage of psychological examiners. We've been looking at trying to address that. There's a transition of child development services. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Out of district placements is always a challenge when we have a student whose IEP requires that they receive their education outside of our school. That can be very unpredictable, and that has a very big price tag, so it impacts our budget very deeply, even when just one student comes in or goes out of such placements. Adult education has not seen any significant increases in their basic operations for a little while, so we're looking at trying to invest in adult ed. Transportation, we're looking at replacing some vehicles, as well as adding cellular radios so we have better connectivity with our buses as they move around our communities. And we also have to address the routing software. The state has always paid for our routing software. They will no longer be paying for that. We now have to pay for that ourselves. We're also looking to increase technology courses at the high school, improve our digital tools for parent and family engagement, and then address some contracted services for psychiatry that we had formerly paid out of grant funds. Moving on from our needs and areas of growth, we talked about enrollment, history, and projections, because that's something very important as we build our budget, is looking at how many students will we be educating. As you can see, we are predicting that we will have about 1,809 students in MSAD 15 schools next year, with 1,801 the year after that. That is fairly steady for us over the last 5 years. It is down quite a bit over the last 10 years. The natural question that then comes from having a school enrollment that's going down is, what have we done with our staffing to address that? And so this is what our staffing has looked like. So to the left here is the enrollment, the same thing. Over to the right is our staffing over time. That's the number of instructional positions we have across the district and how they have changed year over year. Essentially, from the 2014-15 school year to what we have predicted, our student population has decreased 9.3%. Over the same time period, 14-15 to 25-26, we have reduced our instructional staff by 10%. So we have been adjusting our staff with our school enrollment appropriately. Another way we like to look at making sure we're right-sizing our staff is looking at our class sizes. So what you'll see in this chart is that top line are the number of full-time equivalent classroom teachers we have at each grade span. The second line is what we have set as a district and as a board for our goal for how big classes are. We want them to be about 15 to 20 in our younger grades, 20 to 25 in our older grades. The third line is how many teachers we would need to accomplish our goal class size. So in order to have those goal class sizes at K2, we need 21 to 27 teachers. You'll notice that we have 23. At grades 3 and 4, we would need 11 to 14. You'll notice that we have 12. So across this data, what we would say is this confirms what we saw on the last slide, which is that our current FTEs align with the size of our classes even as our population has been going down. So then in our process, we moved into our budget drivers. We started with maintenance of effort, and that essentially means if we change nothing for next year, what is it going to cost us to operate schools? There are a number of assumptions that go into that. Health insurance, dental insurance, inflation rates. It's a guess, of course, but we do our best educated guess. Based on these maintenance of effort assumptions, that open the door number for us would be a 6.52% increase. So to change nothing in how schools are operated this year and open them again exactly the same next year, that would have required a 6.52% increase in the budget. Now that represents a number of budget neutral changes that we're looking to do to address need. So we talked about needing to deliver more technology instruction at the high school level. We think that's something our kids could really benefit from. But we do have a technology integrator in our schools that we are going to plan next year to utilize to provide some of those direct instruction for courses. So we'll be able to meet that need without adding any staff. We're also eliminating a .4 advisory coordinator position and transitioning that person into our English language arts department at the high school, where we have those class sizes have been 25 to 26, a little bigger. I don't know if you've tried to be in one of our classrooms with 25 adult-sized bodies, but those are a lot of children in a very small space. So without adding anything to the budget, we can add more ELA classes, offer more options for students, and not have that be added to the budget. And then the third is what I alluded to before, which is around some changes with child development services. There was a law that was passed that says over the next couple of years, local school districts have to take responsibility for the special services needs of children who are 3 years old. That means that MSAD 15 will be fully responsible for identifying, evaluating, and providing services for all children in our communities who are 3 years old. Now, we have an opportunity to join something called the Early Adopters Cohort, and by joining that group, we get access to additional revenue. So that's something that we are pursuing at this time so that we can start to add these services in our schools without having to add to the local budget. Then we started to quantify the needs. So if you go through that big long list of needs I shared with you, these are what they would cost. The additional teacher, when you take salary and benefits and put it all together, it's about $93,000. I'm not gonna go through every single number up here because this is not what we actually proposed. So I just wanted to give you an idea. If we addressed all the needs that we identified, these are what they would cost individually. And when you put them all together, it would have been a 10.9% increase on the budget. Now, you probably can't read that fine print, but it says this is not the actual number. Please keep reading. So if anyone just got worked up, please, this is not what we're actually proposing. I just wanted to help people understand that if we moved forward with maintenance of effort and tried to address the needs that have been identified, we would have been looking at a 10.96% increase. So then we moved into reductions and deprioritizations. In special services, we did a deep dive into IEP needs, and we determined that we could probably operate and meet IEP needs with 5 fewer ed tech positions. Those are positions that are open, so there is not any reductions in force. Those are open positions that have been unfilled that we will be taking out of next year's budget. We had proposed to moving all ed techs to 35 hours per week across the board. That is something that we will delay to a future year and talk about during contract negotiations. By moving some of our psychology intern funding, which is to address the gaps in psychology services in our district, by moving it to local entitlement, we're able to save a little money out of the, that's an external funding source instead of in the local funding source. We are going to shift our bus and van replacement plan, and instead of doing an outright purchase, go into a 3-year lease. We're gonna defer the work on the bus lift. The bus lift in the garage is not working properly, but it is working marginally, functionally enough for us to do our work, so we will delay that bus lift. We have reduced a 0.6 secretary position by combining some services across the middle school and high school. The current year's budget has a vehicle for our school resource officer. We just bought them a vehicle. We don't need to buy them another, so that's a reduction you'll see in the budget. We went through 3 years of tuition benefit spending. That is a benefit that lives in many of our contracts to look at what we reasonably predicted what people would do, and so we were able to take some reductions across the budget to align with historic spending there. We also had miscellaneous reductions across the board. As I said, we went through line by line by line by line, 3 years worth of spending to make our best estimates for what we would need, and there are reductions all across the budget book related to that. We are also proposing to move $275,000 of payments toward the bond for the air quality projects into our capital improvement funds instead of hitting the local budget. And then we're proposing that we do not add regular education summer classes to the local budget, that we will not have those programs this summer. The final piece I want to talk about and spend a little time on is the 1.5 FTE teachers at the high school. As you saw in the enrollment slides, our enrollment has been going down. And the last of those very big classes are leaving the high school over the next couple of years. So we've been making reductions at the high school to be ready for that. And so we believe that we can offer students what they need with 1.5 fewer teachers here at the secondary level. 0.5 of that will be in the music department. We have suspected for a while that we could, no, I shouldn't say for a while. We suspected during the year this year that we could potentially still offer kids the same amount of music with a 0.5 less of a teacher. We did have a teacher leave mid-year this year, and so we had an opportunity to rearrange our staff and see if we could do that, and we were able to do that. So we are still offering students music with the staff that we had. We did not have to hire a long-term sub, and therefore we have proposed to eliminate that position in next year's budget. World language was the other area in which we identified needing a staffing adjustment. As we head towards being a 500 student school, 4 world language teachers is likely more than we reasonably need. We included only 3 positions in the proposed budget and are moving forward with not posting or replacing our ASL teacher. Clearly, ASL is very important to this district and to me. I was involved in adding this as an elective class, expanding the position from half-time to full-time, and having it recognized in board policy as meeting the requirements for world language towards people's diplomas. I'm extremely proud of what we've created. It's an extremely popular course among students and has support from across our community. Our challenge is in hiring a teacher. 3 years ago, when the currently retiring ASL teacher let us know that she intended to retire at the end of this school year, we began recruiting for a potential opening. We spoke to everyone we came in contact with that had ASL fluency to ask what it would take to get them to want to teach ASL in a public high school. Over and over again, we were told that it was not an appealing position. The job prospects outside of the teacher contract were higher paying, and allowed better flexibility of time and self-directed time. And then moreover, the Maine Department of Education certification requirements were daunting and unappealing. As we came into the current school year, we had to face the reality that being able to hire a replacement ASL teacher was very low. When our course catalog was shared with students in January and February, we removed ASL from their options. I feel strongly that it is simply not fair to promise all of these kids we'll have an ASL teacher in the fall when all the evidence says that we will not be able to find someone in time. That leaves kids in a lurch, scrambling, and overtax our already pressed guidance department. Instead, students have been given the option to access ASL instruction through early college programs, some of which have taken advantage of that opportunity. And while not ideal, I feel it balances the benefits and risks at this point in time. Moving forward, we are open to options to considering ASL experiences in our schools. When we have a world language opening, I predict that we will post for multiple languages, including ASL. If we are able to hire a certified teacher, we will move forward with bringing those courses back. Further, we have flexibility in our co-curricular budget to add an ASL club if there is enough student interest and a qualified person willing to come forward to advise that group. And we can do that by opting not to fill a different co-curricular that children are less interested in next year. It's not a perfect solution, but we are in a situation where the perfect solution is not realistic. Long story, not short, included in the budget presented tonight is minus 1.5 FTE teacher positions, including 1 world language and a 0.5 music. Thank you for your patience on that. And thus we get to the proposed budget that is in front of you tonight. That is a 5.99% increase last year to this year, an increase of $2,528,000. This figure includes the increase for adult education. You'll understand why that's important in a second. To break out this increase, 3.1% of the 5.99 are for salary changes. That is contractually obligated step increases and salary increases. 1.74% of it is towards the increases in health insurance. 0.77% gets at that list of needs that I shared with you. 0.3% goes towards the air quality bond approved by voters in November. And 0.08% goes towards supporting our adult education programs. Now, it's important to note that whenever budgets are shared, they're usually shared without the adult education. I felt very strongly from the beginning it was important that we communicate with the public the entire amount, particularly given we are proposing an increase this year. But when people talk about budgets and when you have seen historic budget numbers, it has always been without adult education. So we're gonna just take a second to talk about it so that you can put into context how this increase looks across a couple of different factors. So the increase to the local budget is gonna be 5.93% without adult education. If you put that into our historic budget increases, you can see it is lower than the 2 previous years, and it brings the 12-year average of increases to 3.92% per year. Many people ask what that looks like compared to our neighbors. So we've put together a table for you that identifies a number of different questions we usually get asked about this kind of data. So this is a selection of districts we have compared ourselves with for many, many years. And the data provided for you here are the population, how big they are, so you can get a sense of how much money is serving how many kids. What you'll see on the next line is their proposed increases for 25-26. Now keep in mind, all of these districts are in the same process as we are. Some of them had their budget validation meetings, I wanna say yesterday. These were the last that we had, the freshest numbers. Some of these may have changed even just since this morning when we checked. So keep that in mind. But last we checked, these were the percent increases. As you can see, at 5.93%, we are fairly low for our area. I will make a special note about RSU 14's budget. I know that looks like a bit of an outlier because it is. They are building a brand new middle school, and the payments for that middle school are being added to the local budget. They're hitting in the coming school year. So, and don't quote me on this, I am a resident of Wyndham, so I definitely should know. But I think it's 7% of it is towards the bond payments, and the remainder is towards just their general school needs. The next line then gives you the dollar amount of their proposed change. And I think this is important because when you think about our district at a 5.93%, that means just a little over 1.9 million. And you would think we'd be fairly close to Falmouth, which is of similar size, and they have a 5.97%, but that's a almost $3 million increase. So sometimes the percent doesn't tell the whole story, so we include the dollar amount as well for consideration. And then the final thing that people tend to ask us as we're talking about this data is how much do districts spend per pupil? How much do they invest? And so this is actually, this whole table is set up from left to right with the lowest area per student investor all the way through Falmouth, which is the highest per student investor. So that's where we are following compared to our regional neighbors in this proposal. Moving into the revenue side. The primary source of revenue that we have for our budgets is what's called the ED 279. It's the formula by which the state provides us funding to run our schools. The proposed FY26 ED 279 is a little over 12 million, which is just slightly over $200,000 increase from last year's proposed. Something important to keep in mind is that the ED 279 amount is constantly changing. I think last I counted, we were on the 9th or 10th iteration. And so all throughout the year, we get letters that changes the amount that we get. But we have to operate on what they're telling us now. Our best prediction is that we will be getting a little over 12 million from the state. Other influences on our revenue. In this budget, we are proposing to get rid of what's called pay-to-play athletics. As of right now, every student that participates in our athletics has to pay a small fee. We believe that that is does not encourage students to participate in athletics, and so we would like to remove that requirement. It would reduce our miscellaneous revenue by about $15,000. We also are predicting a reduced tuition from RSU 14. Right now, the RSU 14 Raymond Wyndham schools have an agreement in their charter that allows Raymond students to choose to come to Gray New Gloucester High School if they want to. I am predicting that in the next few years, when Jordan Small Middle School closes and all middle school students in Raymond will have to attend in Wyndham, that the number of children that are going to choose to come here is likely to go down. If they are already having to go to Wyndham and already mixing with the Wyndham kids, I think they're gonna be more likely to just go a few miles down the road to Wyndham High School than they are to come to us. Maybe that won't be true. I would love to be wrong, but that is what I'm predicting and want us to be prepared for. We are anticipating our bank revenue will be up about $19,000. And then finally, the board has voted to use $1.25 million of fund balance to defray the tax impacts of next year's budget. Which brings me to my 4A, which is a little side note on fund balance and capital reserve. Our fund balance is measured as of June 30, 2024. And there are 3 areas of fund balance: committed, assigned, and unassigned. But I want to take a few minutes to describe what this is, because I know people often look at that number and they think, wow, there's all that money, why aren't you using it? There actually is a good reason. Let me share it with you. So first, let's talk about unassigned. A little over $2.3 million of our fund balance is what's known as unassigned. These are remaining for general purpose. They serve as our operating funds for the district. So if anything bad were to happen, and for some reason our revenue from the state or from the towns were not to come in, this is the amount of money that we have to continue to operate the schools until the problems with revenue can be addressed. This amount is limited by statute to 5% of the previous year's budget, with some extra rules that go along with that. And then there is also proposed legislation right now to actually increase that to 9%. So if you're passionate about that, please go check that out. It is coming through the legislature right now. To just kind of put it into reference, each of our payrolls is about $800,000. So if we were to have our revenue cut off even for just 1 month, for some reason, something tragic happens, we still have to make payroll. So there is, unassigned is, part of their role is to provide that cushion for us. Assigned, the 2.1 million. These are funds that were set aside for a specific purpose. And so this number represents the 1.5 million that the board put aside last year to contribute towards this current year's budget. The remaining around $600,000 were FY24 expenses that had not been paid yet as of June 30, 2024. So think about if we got a fuel delivery on June 28th, but we didn't get the invoice till July 7th, that's an FY24 expense. We have the purchase order for it, the money is set aside, but we didn't actually write the check until after the June 30th mark. The third area is what's called committed. So this is just a little over $2.7 million. These are funds that are reserved by formal action of the board or other entities that reserve funds for very specific purposes. So for us, that includes the capital reserve. I'm going to talk more about that in a second. It also includes other revenue sources that have intended purposes. For example, Plants and International has been incredibly generous and has recently donated $25,000 towards capital work in our district. I have to use that money for capital work in our district. Similarly, there was an opioid settlement that we were a part of. We received a small amount of money in lawsuits against drug companies around the opioid crisis. We have to use that money towards drug abuse prevention. That is not money that is available to us to use for anything we want. We have to use it for a specific purpose. So that is what is true of all $2.7 million in the committed funds. Those are funds for a specific purpose that we cannot use for our general purposes. So to say a little bit more about capital reserve, we do have little over 2.4 million in capital reserve. That money has to be used towards facilities and capital projects. In front of you tonight is a proposal to allow the district to use up to $800,000 of our capital reserve. The intention of that is to use $275,000 to defray the impacts of the air quality bond payments, $300,000 to invest in the general upkeep of our schools. We have schools that need new boilers, schools who need new roofs. So $300,000 towards that. And then $225,000 to begin to address needs like those identified in our failed bond projects, such as upgrades to our performing arts space, addressing some of our locker room issues, trying to address some of our lunchroom issues, et cetera. So I think how I like to think about it when I'm going through fund balances, to understand that yes, there is $7.1 million of fund balance available, but two of those categories we can't touch for any purposes other than what they are intended for. It is only the 2.3 million of unassigned. Now, a little side note, I was chatting with some business leaders recently, and they were talking about how you should always plan for 1.5 months of expenses with no revenue, that's good business practice. I didn't check their numbers, but let's go on that. On that realm, we would need to have $4.4 million sitting around. Clearly, we are not going to do that. That exceeds statutory expectations, but I think it puts in perspective that unassigned amount and how it is important that the school district be able to make our payments in the event our revenue is ever delayed. Moving that expense and revenue into our estimated tax impacts. This is our 2024-25, next to our proposed 25-26 with the summary of the changes. The total increase in expenses that we are proposing is $2,528,000. On the revenue side, our total revenue, ED 279 going up a little bit, use of fund balance going down a little bit, miscellaneous revenue going down a little bit. It means that we will need to raise $21,455,988 in local tax impacts, which is a change of just over $2 million. To project that tax impact per the RSU, the SAD 15 or RSU 15 charter, that divides out between Gray and New Gloucester, 66.71% to Gray, 33.29% to New Gloucester. So of the increase, of the total amount that we need to raise, a little over 14 million will go to Gray, a little over 7 to New Gloucester. Looking at that on the median assessed value of a house. The median assessed value for a house in gray is $476,000. So someone with a median assessed house, it would be an increase of $309 on your tax bill, just school side alone. Town side then impacts that, so please keep that part in mind. But just our side of it, if you have a house that's assessed lower than that, it would be a lower impact. Higher than that, it would be a higher impact. In New Gloucester, that median house is assessed at $250,000. It would be about a $240 impact. Same thing. If you have a higher assessed house, it would be a little more. Lower assessed house, it would be a little less. And that concludes my overview.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Turner. What I'd like to do next is explain a few rules of the road for speaking at tonight's meeting. First, please use the microphone. It's a large room with a high roof, with a fan going. You're here to persuade your fellow voters how you think they should vote. To do that, they need to hear you, so please use the mic in the front of the room there. When I recognize you, please state your name and your town first, and then address the meeting. Please remember that your remarks must be related to the article that's on the floor, the budget article that's on the floor. So for example, starting with Article 1, regular instruction, your comments, your questions, your debate should relate to the budget for regular instruction, and so on. I'd like to remind you that this is actually not a school board meeting, and it's not a public hearing with witnesses to be cross-examined. For that reason, questions for information go through me. What this is a meeting of the legislative body, and you folks are the legislators. You're here for final action on the budget, as was shown by the timeline that Superintendent Turner showed you. This is the final step, okay? So this is the last chance to debate each other. Nothing you say here tonight can change the proposed budget by the school board. You're allowed to propose amendments to it and take the final action. That's why we're here tonight. So your debate is to persuade each other how to vote. Now, if necessary, I can impose rules that, in fairness to other speakers, no one can speak a second time until everyone has had their first chance to speak. I can also impose rules limiting the time to 2 minutes. I almost never have to do that, and that's because of the next rule, which is basically that the prerogative to move things along is in your hands. If you think debate has gone on long enough, come to the mic and say, Mr. Moderator, I move that we vote now. I move the previous question. Now, that will not be unfair, because that will only pass if 2/3 of you are ready to move along. So if it's time to vote, you can make that motion, and only if 2/3 are ready to vote will we proceed to the vote. So you can assure that everyone will be treated fairly. So that's powers in your hands, and I just want to remind you of that. We'll try to be fair to everyone who wants to speak, but at the same time, we also need to be fair if 2/3 of the people are ready to vote. So we're going to take up each article in turn. I'll read the article. A school board member will make a motion in a second to get it on the floor, and then you'll have your opportunity to debate, ask questions for information, make an amendment if that is your wish. Okay? And last, I just want to say, like any budget, there's an expenditure side, a revenue side, and a total. The articles are established by statute. There are 11 expenditure articles, which cover the expenditure side first, in categories that the state establishes. So just to orient you, the first 11 articles are the expenditure side of the budget, and that's what we'll deal with first. So now I'm going to proceed to read Article 1, and we'll get it on the floor, and you'll take it from there. So Article 1, shall the district be authorized to expend $13,895,084 for regular instruction? Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Article 1 is on the floor. Any discussion on Article 1? Please come to the mic. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Susan Fuller, and I am from Gray, Maine. I would like to amend Article 1. Shall the district be authorized to expend $13,317,961 for regular instruction? I want it to remain the same as the 24-25 budget. This year, they increased it by $577,000. And last year, there was, in 23-24, $551,000 left. And then, last year, there never should have been an increase.
Ma'am, hold on one second. Let's see if we can get a second before you speak about your amendment. We have a second. Go ahead, ma'am. Continue.
And last year, they increased the budget by $2,027,000. And the year before, they had, at the end of the school year, $2,244,000 left. And they had increased the budget last year by $2,027,000, and it could have been a zero budget. So I think it's time that we reel this in and make it a zero budget this year.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? So now we're speaking on the amendment. And just for everyone understand, the amendment would be to reduce Article 1 down to $13,317,961. Okay? Speaking on the amendment. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sarah Guskey-Kemmer. I'm in New Gloucester. I would argue to not accept the amendment and to vote that down because first of all, the salary increases are contractual. But secondly, the teachers who are giving the regular instruction have provide everything for our children. They are not actually making much money each individually, and they're able to creatively and passionately provide this education for our kids. I have 2 kids in middle school. I've seen how they flourish under the instruction of our Great New Gloucester teachers. And so decreasing it is pretty insulting to our teachers, to be honest. So I would argue to not vote it down, to vote on the regular article.
Thank you. Any further debate? Yes, ma'am.
Judy Simino. I hope that people do vote yes to the amendment, and the reason why is we are not lowering salaries, we are not taking away teachers' pay, we're not lowering the budget. What we're doing is we're taking the over-budgeting, and we're not allowing the over-budgeting again this year. We're holding the ground on not increasing the budget. We're not taking away pay for teachers, we're not hurting children's services or anything. All it is they're budgeting year over year extra, and they're using the money for unassigned, assigned, and all these other things. So we want voters to please vote yes on the amendment. That's what we're asking for. It's not going to hurt the children. It's not taking money away from teachers. It's not doing any of that. It's taking the money. They're over budgeting year after year of $2 million, and it's putting it back to the taxpayers. So we're asking you to vote yes on the amendment.
Thank you. Any further discussion of the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Laura Peterson. I'm from New Gloucester. I would like to, hopefully I'm saying this right, but I would like to vote no against this amendment. I believe that the folks in front of us have gone over this for months, line by line. They have given us a detailed information about how they've gone through this. While I don't agree that it includes everything that I would like it to include, including the ASL program at our high school, I believe that these are the folks that we've elected to go through this process and know it well, and this is what they're presenting to us. And I think that it's important that we show our community that we support our schools, and this is part of that. So please vote down this amendment.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
My name is David Hall. I say that we vote yes on the amendment because past performance showed that we padded the budget and increased it by $2 million. So if say they need the money in the future, we could have a special election to say, okay, let's give them the extra money that they said they needed. But if they don't need it, let's just vote yes on the amendment and then make them do their work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion before we vote on the amendment? Okay. Seeing none, now I want to be clear, we're voting on the amendment. So the amendment is to reduce Article 1 from the original amount, $13,895,084, downward to $13,317,961. So a yes vote means you're in favor of the downward amendment. A no vote means you're against the downward amendment. Everyone understand? All in favor of the amendment, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, I think we're going to have to count these. And we're going to have to get the clerks to help us. Now, I think okay, I just wanted to make sure we had a center aisle. How many clerks do we have? Could you clerks raise your hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd like the clerks to start by having one clerk count that group, one clerk count this larger group on this side, one clerk count this group, and one clerk count this group. And then we're going to need a clerk to count the voters in front. That's 5 clerks, right? Okay, so all in favor of the amendment, raise your cards, and only put them down when the clerk counting your group tells you to put them down. And someone's going to have to report, each one of the clerks is going to have to report to me. Has the group all the way on the left been counted? Yes. The group all the way on the left has been counted. So you two folks can put your hands down. Okay. That group can put their cards down, correct? That group? Yeah, that group. We're still working on this group. Are we done on this group? Clerks, are we done on this group? No? We're done on this group. Okay. Okay, now we're going to do the no votes.
Hold on a second. Ken Farrington from Gray, Maine. Ken Farrington, live on the North Raymond Road in Gray. This was really confusing here in the center. I don't know who's telling us to put these half down, those half are up. Did they even get a proper count?
Yeah, I'm confident they do. They're going around with clickers. Yeah, so
Well,
let's get the voting result. All right, all opposed to the amendment, raise your cards. folks all the way over here can put their hands down. How are we doing on this last group here? I'm sorry? So clerks, a person is concerned. Hold on, let's get the count first and then I'll. We'll get it.
I think we need to do paper votes.
Could I ask the clerks to all come forward? Could all the clerks come forward, because there's some questions about who's counting where. So let's get this straightened out here. Okay.
So I think that's what it is. We kind of decided ahead of time we were doing it this way, and all of a sudden it was like, oh no, you're doing this. So I think that's where
Would you like to recount to be sure we have it right?
I probably would suggest that, yeah.
Okay.
What we do is we split it up. We center,
Yep.
and we have two of us count.
Okay.
Side, we compare our numbers. If it's incorrect, then we go ahead and we recount.
So you've got your way of doing it? So you don't need me? No. Okay. All right. All right. Would it be better to just start with the yeses again and the noes? Yes. I think so. Okay. All right. So I apologize. I wasn't aware that the clerks have their own way of doing it, and we're probably best off counting the yeses and the noes, so that if we just count the noes, then the question will be using the same method of counting, okay? So with that done, we're going to start again. The clerks know how to do it. They have their own method of counting. And so now we're going to go back. We're going to take the yes votes on the amendment. The yes votes means that you're in favor of the downward amendment. So all in favor of the amendment, once again, raise your cards. And thanks for the clarification. Seventy, 75 yes. Okay. Got them all? Okay, so now we're going to have the no votes. Raise your cards. So no vote, we're going to have to count again. The no vote has to count again, so, oh, on this side? Just this side. '86 no votes. So the amendment fails. It was 75 yes votes, 86 no votes. The amendment fails. So we're back on the article as written, which is $13,895,084. Any further discussion on the article as written before we vote? Seeing none, we will now vote on the article as written. All in favor of the article as written, raise your cards. I think we're going to just count because I'm not going to be able to tell. So let's count. All set? '85 yes. All opposed to the article as written, please raise your cards. They're voting on the article as written. $13,895,084, and these are people that oppose the article as written. Oppose. Against.
Or against the amendment, it failed. So since it failed, now we're voting for the original proposal. They voted for it, and now we're at the against. Is what's sitting out right now. Against.
So let's just come to order. Let's come to order if we could. We're voting yes and no. So the yes vote was 85. If we could come to order, please. Yeah, if we could quiet down, please. So now these are the no votes on on Article 1 as recommended by the school board. These are the no votes on the Article 1 as recommended by the school board in the warrant. So if you're against the recommendation and voting no, you should have your card raised. Are the clerks still counting, or are they? Yeah, let's count one more time. This is the no votes on Article 1 as recommended by the school board. Okay, the results of the voting on Article 1 in the amount recommended by the school board are 85 yes, 74 no. Article 1 carries. Okay? And the amounts, let's not clap, we have a lot to get through, and it's a very close vote. I just want to say, by the way, everybody debating on either side was perfect in how you spoke and respected each other, and just want to commend you all. I've done a huge number of these, and so I'd really like to keep the tone as respectful, and if we start clapping and cheering, it will disintegrate. So let's just keep the tone as it should be. All right? Article 2. Sir? Sir, do you want to use the mic? Sorry? Okay. Article 2. Article 2. Shall the district be authorized to expend $7,401,978 for special education?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Article 2 is on the floor. Any debate or discussion on Article 2? Yes, ma'am.
Can we have paper ballot for this article?
There's a request for written ballots.
Yes.
We
So
want
is
a
there-
request for a paper ballot on Article 2?
Yeah, a written ballot, it's called. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, so just by way of explanation to folks, a written ballot is not like in your voting booth where it's written out. It's a yes/no slip of paper, okay? And so we have one ballot box. Are the clerks set up with additional ballots? So we could vote on this, but there is a statute which says that at a school administrative district meeting, 10% of the voters can require a written ballot. I don't really see any point in voting on that. We can. All in favor of the motion, 10% will pass it. So that would be at this meeting about 16 people. I'm going to say that that is a vote. That's more than 16 people, okay? All right, so the clerks, how do you like to pass out the ballots? We have one ballot box. Where do you like the ballot box to be? Here? Okay. Do you like, do you like people to go in the same direction? Okay, so everyone is going to proceed this way and go that way. If you want a written ballot, you're going to mark your ballot. Are they marked yes or no? Are the ballots marked yes or no? Okay, so you're going to mark yes if you want to, if you want.
Excuse me, sir, can you talk into the microphone, please?
Yes, sorry. So there's a motion to have a written ballot on Article 2 that's passed. So we're going to have a written ballot on Article 2. So before we vote, we should have debate on Article 2, right? So should recognize you. Sorry for getting ahead of myself there.
That's okay. My name is Judy Simino. I want to amend Article 2. Shall the district be authorized to expend $6,874,909 for special education? The reason why I'm requesting this reduction is a reduction of $527,000. I'm not breaking the bank here. This budget is $35 million.
Let's get a second. We have a second?
Oh, sorry.
Yep,
Second.
great.
Sorry, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, that's fine.
Okay,
And do I have the
so-
amount, $6,874,909?
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm only looking for a reduction of the 527 that they want to increase it by this year. And the reason why I don't want the increases is because last year, they budgeted the 6 million and they didn't spend it all. There's over $1 million left in that account. Even if we looked at the year to date on that, there's still a lot left. In the prior year, there's 800,000 left. 835,000 left from the prior year. So for us to increase this again by 500,000 when you hadn't even used the last increase for the prior year and there's still another million, there's no reason. I know they probably say, oh, we're going to end up with more special education children. It would take a really lot of more special ed children to get this out of the whack. They could take it from other funds if they needed to. So we're asking you to please vote yes on the amendment so that we don't have another 500,000 increase. I'm not looking for a huge amount here. I'm just looking for $527,000 not be increased on this category, which has had over $1 million surplus in it. So please vote yes.
Yes, ma'am. I
Colleen
recognize you
Strickler
next.
from New
I'll
Gloucester.
recognize you, sir, in a minute.
Please vote no on this amendment. I had kids in this school who needed these services. It's a shame on any. I am Colleen Strickler from New Gloucester. Please vote no on this amendment. We need these funds for the kids that need these services. And it would be a shame to have kids go without education. And then the people who would vote against, who would vote to reduce the funds will then complain that the school isn't doing a good job.
Sir, I said I would recognize you next. I think you should, because it's going to be very difficult to hear you, so.
Tammy Donovan, New Gloucester. I work in special education for SAD 15. Before this, I worked 10 years for Margaret Murphy Center for Children. I support special education. I support funding it in full. And the reason that I say that is because one of the areas that I've noticed that our district is lacking is funding to support the ed techs in the district so that we can keep our kids in the district so that we're not sending them out. That's where our expense is, and I think that we can do better as a district in providing professional development for the ed techs. That would also increase in the next contractual, increasing the ed techs from 2s to 3s, which also gives more support and the availability to work with children that are more difficult. So those are some areas coming back to the school district. I did work for the district 23 years ago as an ed tech. There hasn't been a lot of changes in special education. I truly believe that we need to keep the funding for this so that we can keep our kids in district instead of sending them out, because I believe if we were trained correctly and properly, that we could keep our kids in the district.
Thank you. And the gentleman who is the school board member, I think is next, sir.
Howdy, everybody. I'm Sam Feifel from Gray. I would urge you to vote no on this amendment. Just want to address really briefly why there might be some funds left over at the end of the year. First of all, there's funds left over at the end of the year because we have not actually finished our fiscal year yet right now. We still have, we pay all the way up until June 1st, and then obviously there are purchase orders that we don't get to pay. So we actually don't know what the current year's spending is, so there is no way to compare year over year. And you saw the way that we build our budget. We build a budget based on which teachers in special education and resources do we need to meet the needs of the IEP students in our district. If we lower it by $500,000, we would have to remove $500,000 worth of educators from our budget, right? That's how we do it. So, you know, we would take those positions and we would reduce it by that amount. We would try to find ways to do it in other places, but we plan for having to use all of the stuff that we are asking for. And then if we don't use it, there are times we don't use it. There are positions that we don't fill. There are teachers who go on leave and we backfill them with long-term subs. Those are less expenses. Sometimes a student that needs an outside placement ends up not needing that placement. We then roll that money back over. The revenue that you saw from our general fund, the $1.25 million, is that money, right? And $1.25 million sounds like a lot of money, but in the context of a $33 million budget, it's 3%, right? That's a pretty normal variance rate for any business in their budgeting. So I'd ask you to vote no on this amendment, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next person. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Al Ballesteros. I'm from Gray. I wanted to say, in view of what the member of the board just said, which is we don't even know how much money is spent in the budget, but they keep on asking to increase it, I would recommend that you vote yes on the amendment. And I think special education is very important. It should be fully funded. There's plenty of money from before, and it can be taken from there. This is not about being pro-special education or against special education. This is not about taking away teachers or not. It's about using the money properly, because we keep on piling money from one year to the next, and then you tell us again every time, if you take money, then you're taking away the rights of the kids, the education of the kids, or the teachers. So that's not how it works. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Sue Fuller again. I figured the 2023-2024 in special education, they had $835,000 left that year. And you mentioned that you gave back, you're giving back $1,250,000. But last year you had $2,244,000. We didn't get all that. So what happens is you're going to take the difference and put it in a capital reserve or something else, and you're over budgeting, so you can keep part of it. And yes, you give us some back to make it sound good, but that's not the way it works.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Jason Hart from New Gloucester. There's been a lot of people talking about how money's being put into the budget. It's being...
Mind if you get a little closer to the mic?
Sorry.
Yes, sir. Just, yeah.
There's a lot of talk about money being put into the budget, padding the budget. That is not what happens. If you've been watching all of the meetings that have happened, all of the budget meetings, they plan for what they use, they build the budget based on what they're planning to use. They're not building some cache of money that they're going to dive into some point in the future. All right? You say that money is carried over and over. It's not really what happens. They try to use all that money. Various reasons, the money doesn't get used. Could be a position, as Sam said, could be a position that doesn't get filled because there's no one available to fill that position. Then what the school board does is they take that cash and they try to figure out the best use of that going forward, right? Which may be putting that money back into the budget for the next year. They are not planning for an extra amount to be carried over just in case. So they plan for what they try to use, and that's it. I encourage you, if you're not familiar with it, to go back and watch all of the budget meetings and listen to how they build the budget. And listen, and please tell me if you ever hear someone in those meetings say, hey, we should throw in an extra 500,000 so we have it for, I don't know, whatever. That doesn't happen. There's been a lot of work that's been put into this budget by not just what you see in the meetings, countless hours by all the administrators, behind the scenes, going through everything. I can tell you, going through the schools, I don't think anyone's going to argue that our kids are laying in luxury in our schools. We don't have tons of cash that's just being spent on frivolous things. I encourage you to vote down the amendment and support the original funds as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion of the amendment before we vote? Yes, ma'am?
Hi again, I'm Laura Peterson of New Gloucester. I wanted to stand up and also encourage you all to vote down this amendment. I have a student who is in special education and requires specialized services. He has an interpreter in the classroom. I am just one of many parents standing up for their kid that needs the professionals and all of what is included in the special education budget. And the gentleman that just spoke up, I think what he had to say is very important, and I alluded to it earlier. These are the people that we have elected and have gone through months and months of this process. They are not hiding money from us. This is all going to important uses. It goes to our kids, it goes to our facilities. Yes, it is important to hold account people that are in positions of power, which I have been doing this week myself, in the last 2 weeks. But I say that we support this article as is and vote down the current amendment. And I'd also like to move to close discussion on this.
There's a motion to cease debate. Is there a second to cease debate?
I'd like to talk, sir.
Sir, no, sir.
I had my hand up.
No, there was a motion to cease debate. I accepted the motion. She had the floor.
I just had my hand up. Did you see me before you said
I
that?
did see you, sir, but she
Then
had
why
the
are you
floor. She had the floor, and she made a motion. She's entitled to be
I have the right
seconded.
to speak, do I not?
It's not debatable. A motion, the previous motion on the previous question is
Because
not
she said
debatable.
so? Because she said she closed it?
No, we
Is that-
first vote,
Is that how it goes?
we first vote on closing
I
debate.
just want to know what your political associations
Sir,
are.
you're out of
I
order.
want to know what your political associations are, including you teachers. What's your political association?
Let's come to order, please. Let's come to order, please. Okay, so the rule, just for everyone's benefit, when someone moves the previous question, it's a motion that's not debatable. But it will only cut off debate if. Yeah. That? Or maybe in front? I can lean over it. Oh, that's much better. Okay. So, the voter who had the floor made a motion which technically is moving the previous question. She had the floor when she made it. Although the other gentleman had his hands up, we proceed to a second on the motion. That motion is, under the rules we adopted, not debatable. So first we have to vote on our motion on whether it cuts off debate. If 2/3 of the people want to cut off debate, that means we cut off debate. But it's fair because it requires a supermajority, more than 50%, 2/3. Only if 2/3 want to cut off debate do we cut off debate. So if 51% want to cut off debate, we don't cut off debate, and I'm going to recognize the gentleman to speak next. Does everyone understand that? So now we're going to vote on whether to cut off debate. If you're in favor of cutting off debate, raise your cards. Okay. If you're opposed to cutting off debate, now raise your cards. Let's count them. Okay, put your cards down, everyone. We're gonna count the cards because it's a 2/3 vote. Everybody put your cards down for a moment. Okay, so all in favor of cutting off debate, all in favor of cutting off debate, raise your cards and we'll count them. Okay, all that want to keep debating, raise your cards. But it's 2/3 of the number voting. If you want to keep debating, raise your card. Okay, the motion fails. Required a 2/3 vote, did not get a 2/3 vote. So we continue debating. Recognize this gentleman if he wishes to speak. You're good? Any further discussion? Yes, sir. If you'd state your name and town.
Hi, my name's Mike from Gray. First of all, let's just remind ourselves, nobody here has malicious intent. So let's just be open-minded and listen and take our time. There is a process. That being said, can I ask a question of the board?
Yes.
Thank you. So we heard about some funds not being used. In the budgeting process, are there line items showing that so much money was rolled over into the next year, as you had said?
Who would like to answer that question?
So the money moved forward to next year's budget is the $1.25 million.
I'm
Of
just,
fund
any
balance.
year, if there's money left over, in that next year's budget, does it list, this was rolled over from the previous year, a certain amount, X, Y, Z, whatever?
So that's the fund balance, which in this case, this year, we're recommending moving forward 1.25 million. Last year, we did 1.5 million. So generally, we look at what's the remaining, see how much of that we feel we need to hang on to and how much
Sure.
we can return to the voter. This year, that number was 1.25 million.
Sure. And with that, that's year after year after year, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So there's a common history of roughly a certain percentage if there's no catastrophic events or huge unpaid bills. And that's listed in the budget by a line item, is that correct? No. Okay. Maybe a suggestion would be to add that to future budgets, and that might quell some of the dissent of looking at the numbers. Would you agree? No, please, go ahead.
There's just like 180 pages of line items. And so we could produce theoretically that document, and there would be, you know, $4 left over in this line item and $7 left over in this line item. And this one has 137 and this one, and we could produce that,
Sure.
but that also is not exactly adding up to what gets rolled over, because as you saw, there's all sorts of reductions and increases in various line items.
Understood, understood. Dealing with budgets myself, though, it might be worth the effort, because then a bigger understanding on how some of these dollars are moved or not moved. If things like that aren't clear, it's going to create dissent and arguments and misinformation. So just my recommendation, please consider this for going forward.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, sir. I'll recognize you and then the next gentleman back there.
Okay. Tyler Brewer, Gray. My question is to the board. Do you guys have a projected surplus in this current year budget as proposed?
Someone wish to
So-
respond?
So this, yeah, so what the board voted on was a surplus that we felt was, you know, essentially safe to the security of the district to move forward, is the $1.25 million.
That's not my question.
Yeah.
I'm asking about
the new
special
budget.
ed, so we don't, at least me, I'll speak, I don't want to cut current services to special ed, but if we're already have a surplus in that, and you guys want to increase it again, and we're not even spending the money we already have allotted, that's just crazy.
Yeah, so to answer that question, no, there is not a surplus built in to this article for proposed special services. This is what we believe, based on all of the work, that it will cost to meet our special services needs for the year. Should,
that.
as Dr. Turner said, should a child move into district or move out of district, that may change, and some of those items may go over or under. This is our best work on what that's going to be. We do not pad this budget
I never said
in
that.
order to,
But is there
No,
a
I'm just trying to
surplus
answer your
in the
question.
current budget? The current budget, are we gonna have a surplus in special ed?
we don't know that yet. We're still in this,
Well,
fiscal year.
The committed is, and you know what the budget is. So based on that, we got a month left. There's gonna be a surplus or there not? Yeah, We got till end of June, and we're, at least for me, I don't want to cut special ed, but if we're proposing additional funds on stuff we're not even using yet, it doesn't make sense.
So we
to
have
me.
2 months left. We do not have a predicted or forecasted surplus. We don't have that
Okay.
number for you right now.
All right, thank you.
Gentleman in back, coming forward.
Don Libby, New Gloucester. I guess I was taken aback by a previous comment from a member of the board where, all right, yeah, let me scooch down. Don Libby, New Gloucester. I was taken back a little bit by a member of the board here that says that, well, we don't really know how much it is because we'd have to look at each line. Well, you should have software that does that. What kind of accounting system are you using? My goodness, you should be able to know by the month exactly how much you're spending and exactly where you are by the month, and from that you can take a projection. Don't just sit there. This is how come there's no trust. No trust at all, because you come out with statements like that. That's what I find frustrating. Now, the other thing that I want to give a little bit of advice to Mr. Moderator. Don't let someone have the last word when they're up there to move the question. People would be very angry if I said right now, let's move the question, because they might want to counter something that I say. So let's be polite and courteous to each other and let people speak until you're the only one in line that says that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sue Fuller. I went to the budget meeting last year, and there were, in each school, a line put in each school for $100,000. I've checked the budget recently, and they've hardly used any of that. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And then the other thing I'd like to mention is, I know at my school district, we have reserve accounts, so you can budget close, and if something happens, you have like $250,000, $400,000 in a reserve account and use it for emergencies. Maybe that'd be something you might want to consider doing.
Next person. There's a woman behind you, and she hasn't spoken yet. I'll recognize you next, all right?
Catherine Larson, New Gloucester. I'm also a teacher at the high school. I've been a special education teacher for years. I'm currently teaching American Sign Language here at the high school. And I just want to say that a lot of you don't understand the nature of special education. As a special education teacher, there are kids who move into the district. There are kids who are in the district who qualify for special education. And suddenly there are funds that need to be found to take care of the needs of these children who need our help. And so this is something that it's hard to predict how much money you're going to need, because you could have a very needy kid move into the district, or someone who needs a lot of services that you cannot predict. So I would support fully anything for special education. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I said I'd recognize you next. No. Ma'am, did you? Yeah, and sir, then you.
Judy Simino. So I need people to understand, we're not cutting special ed. We're not taking any benefits away from special ed. We're not discounting anything. We're not taking away teachers' pay. We're not doing any of that. What I'm trying to say is they're adding $527,000 to last year's budget that hasn't gotten spent. Sue and I have worked endless hours on this budget. She does budgeting for a school. I do financial services for 30 years. We're not somebody that's just looking at this at a glance. I have spent many, many hours on this budget. Okay, so I know how to look at a budget. When I see that they're asking for an extra $500,000 when the prior year they had $835,000 left over, and then this year, Sue and I looked at the stuff year to date as of April 30th. Their documents stated that there was over $1 million left. We got 2 months left out of the year. They don't know that number, but we know that number. There are about $1 million left over right now. I don't think they're going to use $1 million in 2 months. And granted, can they have a bunch of students come in the next year? I don't think $1 million worth. I just don't. I think it's way over budgeting, and they're not budgeting over expenses from last year, they're budgeting over last year's budget. It's way different. They're not looking at actual expenses to the budget this year, they're looking at budget year after budget year, and they're not going by actual expenditure numbers. So that's what I had to say is, so please, just realize we're not taking money away from these students. We realize special ed is very important. We just don't need extra money put in a category that's not being used so they can put it around in other categories. So that's all we're saying on that. So please vote yes on the amendment.
Thank you. Sir in back. Yes, sir.
Todd Bennett from Gray. Todd Bennett from Gray. I have two questions I'd like to get answered. One, and I don't know whether it's superintendent or the school board. One question, our first question is, our IEPs, which essentially drive the special ed system, do they have sort of the force of law? Are we legally required to provide those services?
Yes.
If the money isn't there for those services, are we allowed to take it from somewhere else in a different cost center?
So if as an article, what we needed to meet our local obligations exceeded the number that is voted on tonight, then we can move funds from one article to another by vote of the school board up to 5% of the amount.
Okay.
But we can't, but the total budget that's voted on, we cannot exceed that number. We can move within the articles, but we cannot exceed as a total.
So my third question's for our moderator. You're Drummond Woodson?
Yes.
What is our liability if we can't provide the services, or if we have to move more than 5%?
Well, I'm a moderator tonight, and I don't think I should, first of all, special ed is not my area of specialty, but also I don't think I should be answering that sort of legal question in my role as moderator to this meeting. I don't think it would be appropriate.
Fair enough.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Meg Barhay. I live in Gray. I am a parent of a student who has received special education in our district, and prior to enrolling in public education, we waited a long time to receive services through child development services. And as a parent who's gone through that experience of having your child diagnosed and then waiting and waiting and waiting for help, I can tell you that every day you go without the support you need is absolute torture. It is so hard, and it is such hard work. So I think the school board has explained, and if you go back and watch the videos and look at the agendas and everything they've done to get here, that this is their best prediction for what will be needed for next year. Sure, there could be some adjustments based on how many, if a student moves out of district or a new student moves into district who has to be, sent out. But I think right-size funding this and not coming up with some plan where we may need to scramble or hire and wait on a new teacher to serve a student. I'm thinking about these students who are waiting for the support that they desperately need, the parents who are waiting for that help. Every single day matters in those situations, and I don't know with free and fair education if that's, I don't even know how that works exactly, but just having the resources available from day one is so critical, and I don't see this as a place for any kind of cutting back if this is what we've decided that the right size is based on projections. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments or debate? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Pam Edson. I just want to say that no one here is lacking compassion on special ed. My oldest son has cerebral palsy. I have a child that had special needs. And we're talking about $1 million right now that you haven't used with about 6 weeks left, and you're over budgeting. And what they've asked you to cut doesn't even
go to that number. You're over budgeting again, knowing you've got this amount left. And it's about finances. We all do our finances. I mean, why would you ask for even more this year when you know right now you have $1 million sitting there, and the year prior you still had money budgeted in that line item? It doesn't seem like best practice.
Thank you. Any further comment? Yes, ma'am.
Deb Carson of Gray. I just don't understand how people keep thinking that we have $1 million left with 2 months left to the year. We spend about $500,000 to $700,000 a month. With 2 months left, that is the $1 million sitting in that account. You guys are not understanding there's 2 months of the year left. With $1 million still sitting there, they're going to spend some of that. Okay?
Speak into the mic so everybody can hear.
What I'm saying is we spend money every month. There's not $1 million going to be left in 2 months. You're not being realistic. They're talking about salary increases and benefit increases, and they're talking about taking people out to cover that. I don't understand how you don't see that this increase is necessary, and I don't understand why people would want to vote for this amendment. I move to end comment and move to vote.
Okay, we have another motion to cut off debate and a second.
Second.
So all in favor of cutting off debate at this point, raise your cards. Okay. Thank you. All opposed to cutting off debate, raise your cards. I think that is a 2/3 vote, so we'll cut off debate. Now, I'd like to remind you where we are, because I think there's a possibility of confusion. So there was first a motion for a written ballot on Article 2, and the clerks passed out pink slips, right? After that motion, there was a motion to amend Article 2, okay? There was not a motion for a written ballot on the amendment. There has been a motion to cut off debate, so we're now voting on the amendment, not on the article, okay? So here's what I think we need to do at this point. There is going to be a written ballot on either Article 2 or Article 2 as amended. Once we deal with the amendment, there's going to be a written ballot. So I want to be clear on that. Everyone understand that? But for now, put your pink slips in your pocket, because that's going to weight the vote on the main article or the main article as amended. There was no motion for a written ballot on the amendment itself, which came after the motion for the written ballot on the article. Okay, had there been, we would have 2 written ballots, one on the amendment and then on the article as amended or on the original article. But there's only been one motion for a written ballot on the original article or the article as amended. Everyone understand that? Okay, so we're going to vote by using the, was it honeysuckle colored cards on the amendment, okay? So the amendment is to reduce Article 2 down to $6,874,909. And if you're in favor of the amendment down, reducing that amount, you're not in favor of that amount, you're in favor of the amendment down, raise your cards and the clerks will count your yellow cards. Okay, there were 68 yes votes on the amendment. Now, there were last record 161 voters here. It's possible people left and 68 is a passing vote. It's possible people will abstain. I'll count them if you want me to. Shall I count? People nodding their heads, so we're going to count them. So all opposed to the amendment, raise your cards. Okay, the vote on the amendment is 68 yes, 85 no. The amendment fails. So we're now back on Article 2 as written. There's going to be a written ballot on Article 2. Any further discussion on Article 2? I will. Don't worry. Thank you, though. I don't see further discussion. Oh, yes, sir. Go ahead. Go right ahead. Yeah.
Joshua Petrowitz, 229 Rose Station Road, New Gloucester, Maine. I think it's getting a little heated. I got a Uncle Ricky of mine who's been special needs for going on over 52 years. I just want to say that the only reason I voted against the amendment, I believe that that was a little lowballed with the rate of inflation. I think that's right around 3%, give or take, year over year. And I think effectively we'd be bleeding that out by a small cut. I would like to propose an amendment to make this, as written as passage, 7,100,000 even and more conducive with the rate of inflation. If anyone would like to second that, I'd be happy to be the moderator of the evening. If not, thank you.
Is there a second? Was that a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So now there's an amendment to reduce Article 2 to 7,100,000. Any discussion of that amendment before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor of this amendment downward, which is an amendment downward not quite as far, or somewhere in between, right, to 7,100,000, all in favor of that amendment, please raise your cards. Everyone's done? Everyone's done. All opposed to this amendment, raise your cards. Okay. The amendment fails. The vote was 70 to 77. We're back on Article 2. Any further discussion?
My name is Michelle Trepany. I'm from New Gloucester. I ask that we vote on Article 2 as written.
Okay, so are you moving the previous question? So we're voting on that, so unless I have a motion on the previous question, we're going to continue debate. Any further debate? So, I know, but that's what we're doing. So I'm asking you, are you making a motion to vote now? Okay, so she's moving the previous question. Is there a second? Thank you. Sorry, I just try to understand the intent. All in favor of the previous question, raise your cards. So let's, hold on, let's make sure everybody understands. So again, we're voting on whether to cut off debate, okay? If we cut off debate, we're going to move right to a vote on the article as written, okay? Everyone understand? So all in favor of cutting off debate, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. The vote carries. So now we're cutting off debate. We're going to proceed to a vote on Article 2. It's the written ballot. And please, you are permitted to fold your ballots, but if you don't fold your ballots, the vote will go twice as fast. Okay, so the clerks are requesting that you not fold your ballots. Okay, you are permitted to, it's up to you, but the vote will be much faster if you don't. The ballot box is in fact empty, no rabbits in the box. So please proceed down this way and then go back that way. The pink one. You please use the pink one. The pink ballot, everybody.
Hello.
You don't want to be seen with us.
I always hide on the back wall.
You're a fly. I like the things I have.
If you haven't voted, please proceed to the ballot box at this point. We're getting near the end. Has anyone not voted? If you haven't voted, raise your hand and wave it. Has anyone not voted? Okay, I'm going to declare the voting closed and ask the clerks to count the ballots.
No, no, no. Like you guys. That helped. But it was like, yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's like the process. Like I want there to be.
Anyway, thanks again. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm so happy I came to this. I was just texting my dad. I'm like, you should have come. Because I asked him to come. He was like, ah.
85. If we could come to order. Okay, the result Vote on Article 2 was, yep. The result of the vote on Article 2 is 89 yes, 62 no, so Article 2 carries. Article 3, shall the district be authorized to expend $0 for career and technical education? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, this is $0. It's because technical education is funded directly to the entity providing it. Unless there's an objection, I'm going to move right to a vote on $0. Any objection? Okay, all in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Article 3 carries. Article 4, shall the district be authorized to expend $1,067,609 for other instruction? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Article 4, other instruction is on the floor for discussion. Any discussion on Article 4? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Now, I'm going to call that a pass. If there's an objection, we'll count. Article 4 carries. Don't hesitate to object. We'll count. I just want to be fair to everybody here tonight, okay? Article 5, shall the district be authorized to expend $3,344,807 for student and staff support? Is
So
there
moved.
a motion and a second?
Second.
Article 5 is on the floor. Student and staff support. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make an amendment. My name is Sue Fuller. I would like to amend it. Shall the district be authorized to expend $3,194,807 for student staff? They had $270,000 left the prior year.
Let's get a second. Second. Okay, go ahead, ma'am. Go right ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We just wanted a second.
I'm done.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Michelle Trepani, New Gloucester. I vote that we cease discussion and vote on the amendment.
Well, I'm going to allow a little discussion. That's a little premature. Thank you, though. I just think in fairness, we should allow a little bit. There seems to be relatively close vote, so I'll just ask if there is discussion. Is there any discussion? If not, we will move to a vote on the amendment. Okay, so did I get the dollar amount right? $3,194,807? Okay. So now we're voting on the amendment to amend Article 5 down to that amount. Everybody understand? So yes vote means you're in favor of amending the recommendation down. All in favor of the amendment, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. I'm going to ask for a count on this. Excuse me. All in favor of the amendment, raise your cards. Sorry about that. 68. And all opposed to the amendment downward, raise your cards. Okay, the amendment fails. The vote was 68 yes, 77 no. We're now on the original article. We'll proceed to a vote unless there's further discussion. Okay, let's vote. All in favor of the article as proposed, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. I'm going to call that a pass. Article 5 passes as written. Article 6, shall the district be authorized to expend $1,138,431 for system administration? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. I'm going to call that a pass because it's been consistent. If there's an objection, if there's even one objection, I'll call for a count. Count? Okay, we'll call for a count. So all in favor of Article 6 as written, raise your cards and we'll get a count. They're done. All opposed to the article as written, raise your cards. Yes, please, sorry. Thank you. That'd be a good idea. 77. Thank you. Okay, the vote is 77 yes, 64 no, so Article 6 carries. Article 7, shall the district be authorized to expend $1,735,128 for school administration? Motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. And I'm going to call that a pass. So it takes, under the moderator's rules, it takes 7 people to challenge the call of the moderator. I said 1 last time. It's been very consistent. But if there's 7 people who would like to challenge, just stand up and I'll count to 7 and we'll count them. Or raise your cards if there's 7 people who want to challenge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's count then. All in favor of Article 7, raise your cards and we'll count. The clerks ask that you raise them high and hold them up and not go back and forth. Are we all done over here? Clerks, are we all done over here? All set? 77 again? Okay. And if you're opposed to Article 7, raise your cards. If you're opposed to Article 7, please raise your cards.
Yeah, they left. Yeah.
63. The vote was 77 yes, 63 no. Article 7 carries. Article 8, shall the district be authorized to expend $2,282,545 for transportation and buses? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Article 8 is on the floor. Any discussion on this article? Yes, ma'am.
Tammy Donovan, New Gloucester. I have a question. Last year's budget, the transportation line increased $750,000. So I'm just curious what the increase is this year, and if the expenses were actually spent on what was supposed to be spent for the $750,000 increase. And the only reason I say that is because that's a very large increase for one line item. And what is the increase this year?
One sec.
So the dollar increase for transportation and buses, Article 8, is $298,848.
I think the question was in context of $750,000 last year.
I don't have the...
So last year was 750, but what's the increase this year?
The increase is $298,000.
So in 2 years, we've increased our transportation by $1 million. How many new buses do we have? How many new vans do we have? I'm just curious what the $750,000 was spent on last year for that increase.
What we spent on it last year is not something we have off the top of our heads. Jen, okay.
That should be something as a school board that you should be aware of. Like, where is our money going? If we have 2 new buses, 3 new buses, because right now you're proposing to buy or
I'm not
lease.
suggesting that we don't know. I'm saying to get you an accurate answer is going to take a second. I can't spout off the top of my head what last year's transportation increase was
Well,
used
when
for.
I'm sorry, but I'm on the select board for New Gloucester, and if somebody asked me that question on where our money is being spent, I would probably have the answer.
I have an answer for you. So last year's increase in Article 8 was $224,000. That included the reduction of 1 unfilled bus driver position, a lease and purchase of a special services van replacement, and an increase for supplies and repairs in addition to the regular salary and step increases.
But the increase was $750,000 for that line last year. And I understand it's a bottom line budget, so you can move the money around wherever you want, but there was a $750,000 increase.
No, that's incorrect. Last year, the increase was $224,878 last year, which was used for lease and purchase of 1 special services van and supplies and repairs.
So it wasn't 750.
It was not. It was $224,878.
I apologize, I'm mistaken, but pretty sure with last year I said at the budget meeting, and that line item was increased by a lot, so.
So we have the slide here from last year, which is why I asked for a moment to get you accurate information, and it was $224,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Joshua Petrovitz, 229 Row Station Road, New Gloucester, Maine. I'm just curious, we're looking at leasing these buses, and I just wonder, does that cost include excess wear and use in these leases? I mean, if these kids tear these things up, are we going to be hit with an additional bill later on? I mean, I know that if you lease a vehicle, you typically want to get that. And I mean, I don't know how many of you guys lease minivans, but kids, they kind of tear these things up. And we're not even talking about a minivan. We're talking about 40, 50 young children in these buses. I don't know if leasing is in this best interest of MSAD 15. You guys, you've all got that decision to make, but if we lease these versus purchase these, I'd just like to know some clarification. Are we on the hook for anything if they get torn up in any way? Does they're included in the contract somewhere?
The terminology used here was lease. It is a lease purchase. So we are purchasing these vehicles. Thank you for the question.
Any further discussion on transportation and buses? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the article, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. I'm going to call it as a pass. If there are 7 people that like to challenge, raise your cards. Okay, Article 8 carries. Article 9, shall the district be authorized to expend $3,779,000 for facilities maintenance? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Article 9. Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. Article 9 carries. Article 10 is debt service. Shall the district be authorized to expend $635,719 for debt service and other commitments? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your cards. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought you were going somewhere else. Yes,
Howdy.
sir.
Sam Feifel, Gray. I think this is an amazing opportunity for us to show how serious we are as a body in contemplating what we are actually voting for. This is us agreeing to pay the debts that we have already taken on as a school district. I hope that we can all join in voting yes on this unanimously, because I don't think there's anybody in Gray New Gloucester who wants to be known as not paying their debts. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. Article 10 carries. Article 11, shall the district be authorized to expend $0 for all of the expenditures? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
It's $0. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Article 11, carries. That was the expenditure side of the budget. Articles 12 through 14 are the revenue side of the budget. Article 13 is essentially the amount raised as your required local contribution from each town in the right-hand column to qualify for the state matching dollars. As I explain in every budget meeting that I moderate, the form of this article looks complicated and is. It's the form required by state statute. The amount of state matching dollars isn't actually shown. The amount on the left is the state dollars plus the local dollars. So the state dollars is the mathematical difference between the left column and the right column, approximately 12 million plus, as explained by Superintendent Turner. Okay, so the left column is the state plus local. The right-hand column is the required local contribution. The state is the difference between the two, okay? Article 12, shall the district appropriate the amount set forth below for the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and shall the district raise and assess the amounts described below as each municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes, Title 28, Section 15688. And I'm just going to read the totals. Total district appropriation, $25,911,099.33. And the total to be raised as the required local contribution from both towns, $13,733,946.66. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Article 12 is on the floor for discussion. Any discussion on Article 12? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. Article 12 carries. Article 13 this is the article that raises money for annual payments on previously approved school construction debt service. Shall the district raise and appropriate $635,719 for the annual payments on debt service previously approved by the district voters for non-state funded school construction projects or non-state funded portions of school construction projects, in addition to the funds appropriated as the local share of the district's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on Article 13? Yes, ma'am.
It's in the agenda that was posted on our website a week ago. If you go to msad15.org, if you scroll down to budget, you should be able to find it quickly on that page, or I'm happy to hand around my copy. I think all the other written copies have been taken, yes? Oh, thank you so much.
I'm going to put them right by the mic.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. Article 13 carries. Article 14 will require a written ballot. It's the additional local tax dollars for the school budget as proposed. Shall the district raise and appropriate $6,961,308 in additional local funds, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by that amount, $6,961,308, as required to fund the budget recommended by the Board of Directors? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to amend it to $4,985,798. They've had $2.2 million left over last year. They're going to have quite a bit this year, and they can take it out of their fund balance.
Is there a second?
Yes, and a paper ballot, please. Oh, this one is a paper ballot.
Okay, there's a second. Is there a second? Okay, and you're requesting a paper ballot on your amendment as well? Is there a second on the motion for the paper ballot? Okay, so we have an amendment, a proposed amendment down to amend Article 14 down by, well, down to the sum of $4,985,798, okay? And there's a motion for a written ballot. Okay, and there's a request that the motion for a written ballot be done by written ballot. Oh, wait, no, there's a proposal that the amendment be by written ballot. Okay. All right. Make sure I get this right now. So first off, is there any discussion of the amendment down? We can discuss that, yes. Yep, go right ahead.
I don't mind
So
going up there.
right now, we're going to discuss whether to have a written ballot on the amendment.
Right, everybody remembers how long that written amendment took last time? Right, so you want to do that not only for the vote that we're going to take on this article, but also on the amendment, right? So I think we can do the vote on the amendment with the yellow piece of paper. If we lose that, if we win that, whatever happens, that's fine, but let's not take all the time and do another written ballot, please.
Okay, any further discussion on whether to have a written ballot on the amendment? Okay, so we're now going to vote on, with our yellow cards, on whether to have a written ballot on the amendment. Okay, so we'll vote with our cards. A yes vote means you want to vote by written ballot on the amendment. You might want to vote yes on the amendment. You might want to vote no on the amendment. This is a vote on whether you want to do that by written ballot. Okay? It's not a vote on whether you like the amendment or not. It's a vote on how you want to vote. Okay? So if you'd like to vote on the amendment by written ballot, yes, raise your cards. If you don't want to vote by written ballot on the amendment, raise your cards. Okay, that fails. So we're not going to vote by written ballot on the amendment. So now we're back to debate on the amendment itself. The amendment is to amend Article 14 down from $6,961,308 to $4,985,798. So now we're debating that amendment. Any debate? Seeing none, now we're going to vote on the amendment with our yellow cards. All in favor of the amendment, the downward amendment, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed to the amendment, raise your cards. Thank you. The amendment fails. So now we're going to vote on the article as written. Any further discussion on the article as written? So we're going to have a written ballot vote on the article as written. Now your ballots, are they green? Someone help me here. Are they green? They're green. Okay, so if you're in favor of Article 14 as written, you're going to check yes. If you're against it, you're going to check no. The ballot box is here, and I'd ask the clerk to supervise it. There's still no rabbit in the box, as shown, which is good. No rabbit. So check your ballot and proceed to cast your ballot. Again, please, you're allowed to fold it. It'll go twice as fast if you don't fold it. If you've not yet voted, please proceed to the ballot box. We're about to close the voting. Does anybody else still need to vote? Please wave your hand if you need to vote. Has everyone voted? Okay, we'll declare the voting closed, and I'll ask the clerks to count the ballots. we could come to order. The vote on Article 14 is 78 yes, 55 no. Article 14 carries. Article 15 is the total school budget, which is a summary. Shall the district, so Article 14 carries. Article 15, shall the district authorize the Board of Directors to expend $35,280,301 for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2026, from the district's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on Article 15? All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. Article 15 carries. Article 16, in addition to amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the Board of Directors be authorized to expend federal stabilization funds and such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed raise your cards. Thank you. Article 16 carries. Article 17 is adult education. Shall the Maine School Administrative District Number 15 appropriate $356,851 for adult education and raise $125,015 as the local share with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the adult education program? Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, ma'am?
I have a question. Is it only Gray, New Gloucester people that use the adult ed? Or is it from people from other towns? I was just curious.
We do, so we have a couple of different types of programming in adult education, some of which people pay for and others that they don't. It is open to folks from other communities.
Okay. So we're increasing this by 25,000. Is that going to be for everybody, people that aren't here, that we're funding for people in other towns? Is that what we're doing?
Those increases are for salary and benefits for full-time staff that we have in the adult education department.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. Article 17 carries. Article 18, shall the school board be authorized to expend $800,000 from the existing capital reserve fund to pay the costs of capital projects, air quality bond payments, and ongoing architectural and engineering studies? Any discussion? Oh, excuse me, is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Last year, we raised $100,000 for the same Article 18 for architectural and engineering studies. And I know several people in the community have asked for, where did the $100,000, what was it spent on, who was it spent on, you know, the vendor, how much and what was it for? And at the last time that somebody asked for the accounting of it, she was told, you didn't know. So is there any way we can get an accounting of the $100,000 from last year? Because it doesn't make me feel very comfortable voting for $800,000 if you can't account for $100,000.
So I just want to be clear, these are completely different things. The motion on the table is for expending up to $800,000 from existing capital reserves. These are the projects outlined in Dr. Turner's presentation to get at the facilities upgrades that we need and pay a portion of the air quality bond payments. The reason ongoing engineering and architectural is in there is there's no specific intention for bigger work, other than if you do something like paving, we still need to have the permits, we still need to have the engineering done. So that's intended to go with that. In terms of last year's.
Last year, we voted 100,000.
Yep,
And
so-
now you're asking for 800,000. Can we get an accounting on the 100,000, where it was spent, who it was paid to, and what it was for?
So that was used largely on the architecture and engineering project to bring our facilities bond to ballot in November, and that was fully spent. So that's
Right.
spent.
Can we get something printed out of ADS to
That-
see who it went to and how much and?
That would be a request for a different time.
Right, people have requested it, and we haven't gotten it. That was my point.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 18, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. Article 18 carries. That concludes the business of this meeting. A reminder, the budget validation referendum, there'll be absentee ballot voting, and the vote at referendum is on June 10. I want to thank everyone for their participation tonight, and I'll take a motion from anybody to adjourn. And I'll accept that by acclamation. Thank you, everyone.
But yeah, should Judy leave?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate your participation in our school board budget validation.